Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 322 of the Stacey West Podcast. I am Ben, and this week I'm joined by Chris. How are you doing, mate? Are you keeping well?
Keeping very well indeed. Thank you. Yeah, I've had a lovely weekend.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was improved by the football yesterday. We had a nice weekend. My other half's birthday on Friday, but she wasn't at home. She went back to Norfolk to see her mum. We did her kind of celebrations on Thursday evening. So I've had the house to myself all weekend. It's been bliss, to be honest with you. So football yesterday, played video games all night last night, sat on the sofa in my pants. Had a lie-in this morning. Did some prep, obviously, for this. It's all good stuff, mate. It's all good. I believe you must be in rather good spirits this week, though, Mr. Ward, after some positive news, I imagine.
Yeah, it's been a week. Very stressful week, but Friday bought a house, mate. Wow.
Woo!
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's been a very long time coming. We actually had our offer accepted on the house back in May, towards the end of the season, and then I was like, cool, we'll hopefully be in for the start of the new season. It'll all be good. But no, it got a few delays here and there. But picked the keys up on Friday, and because we're renting at the minute, we've got like a month to move out, so currently still in the old place at the moment. So yeah, no, very, very exciting, very happy, very good end to what was probably the most stressful week of my life, because this
worth
process,
it, I'm sure.
100%. Yeah, the process is not it's not designed for the people that are buying the house. It is designed for everybody else. But no, couldn't be more happy with how things have eventually worked out. So, and then sort of went down to the ground yesterday. Rach had a friend up, so she went and sat with her friend and her kids, and we were just sort of milling about the fan zone. Got to see everybody, and then I think we might as well start talking about the game. Maybe focusing on the lineup.
Yes, I think so.
When the lineup came out, I thought my initial thinking was that we would probably start with Bailey Cadamartri up top, but that didn't happen. We went with Freddie and Jovan. Spoiler alert, that worked out quite well. But like on the whole, I think it was. It goes to show just how much depth we have now, where there doesn't really seem to be any sort of trepidation or any anxiety about when the lineup's getting announced. Because you look at it, you go, I don't mind which 11 players start this game. I feel confident in the depth of the squad that we've got now, regardless of who starts. It was a decent bit of news to come out to, and like I say, a slight surprise maybe that we started with Jovan and Freddie.
Yeah, I'd go with that. I'd certainly go that it was a surprise. I expected Bailey to start after a decent performance against Blackpool, and he's been in and out of the team a little bit so far. And in all fairness, Freddie maybe hasn't so much recently. He's probably been down the pecking order a little bit, but good performance away at Cambridge, of course, last week, and a goal off the back of that as well. So definitely justified it. And of course, Fred didn't get any minutes on Tuesday night.
Mm.
So he was fresh to come into the team, which I think was maybe played a part into it. But also, he's a threatening player, Freddie. He's I think some people maybe say he's a bit one-dimensional at times, but I think he's very, very, very good at that one dimension, and he's ever improving.
Mm.
So, but was I surprised that it was those two up front? Yes, I was. Was I delighted though? Of course. Like from a football club's perspective, what a just real justification of the whole kind of academy setup and the youth team and all the work that's gone into that over the last few years. And Michael, of course, referenced it after the game, which we'll touch on. But before either of them scored, it was just brilliant to see both of them starting up front together. I think from a Lincoln City fan's perspective, to see two academy products playing specifically up top together, I think is a huge, huge statement. and something that's worth celebrating in itself. But I get your point in regard to the lineup coming up. Got to 2:00. I was sat in Gwyn's with my mate Dave. He's a Liverpool fan, so I was watching a Liverpool game. I was so bored, Ben. I was so bored watching that game of football. I just don't care for Premier League football anymore. I really don't. But as soon as 2:00 came around, I couldn't get on my phone. I asked him, get the team up, please. I'm like, I've got ages yet to kick off. I know, but it's 2:00. The team's out. I want to see it. Because it's excitement now. It's genuinely excited to see who's playing. It's not, oh my God, who's going to fill in for so-and-so. It's who's going to get the nod, because there are so many players that could do. We knew that Tom Hamer was going to come in for Adam Jackson, and he's I think he'd be very, very unlucky to lose his spot, by the way, next for our next game in Birmingham. But Jack Moylan's been playing well recently, could have definitely justified a start. JJ McKinnon has been good when he's come on. He could potentially have justified a start. McGrandles and Bayliss always justify a start. So the midfield dynamic was always interesting. So he was going to play at left wing back. Eric Ring's done brilliantly whenever he's come on. Tom Jeffries has started games well on the whole recently. It's we say it so often, but it's still a novelty, isn't it, for us to have the depth that we have and the options that we have. It's so exciting. But yeah, who started the game though? Of course, so those lads that did get the nod didn't necessarily justify it in the first half, did they? Not all of them, at least.
No, not so much. I mean, just to put a little bit of a bow on that, we were talking when I did the Blackpool preview. I actually went on the It's Not Orange podcast as well, and they were saying about the players that we brought in. You know, who is there, or are there any key names? And I thought, did we miss anybody that had gone? And I thought to myself, you know what? Looking back now, we're a month and a bit into the season. I don't really miss any of the players that went because we've brought in players that are, so far, they've been better than most of them. And, you know, it wasn't a window where we were signing people to make the numbers up. We were actually signing them to genuinely bring in good quality players to improve the squad as opposed to just having a bigger squad. And it's, the fact that we've managed to do that, it's a little bit frightening, but in a very, very good way.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because I really rated both Lass and Lucas, as you well know.
Yeah.
And I thought they'd both be difficult to replace. I felt we would be able to replace Lucas because, as obviously, goalkeepers union me. I know it's an important position. You want to get it right. But there are options out there. You know, I fully expect us to get a lone goalkeeper in, to be honest. Obviously, we didn't go down that route in the end. But I thought we'd be able to adequately replace him. Did I think we'd maybe be able to replace him like for like with someone who was as outstanding as Lucas was? I wasn't sure. But did I think we'd be able to adequately replace him? Yeah, I wasn't too worried about that. And obviously, I think George Wickens has already, particularly this last week, has kind of proven his worth and really grown into that position now. Rather, as Gaz mentioned it on Wednesday. We kind of see George Wickens as our goalkeeper now, not just the new goalkeeper. But I honestly really didn't think we was going to be able to replace Lass Sorensen. I thought it'd be really difficult to find a player of the profile that Lass was, because he was so unique in how Lass played that role, just full of energy, really good delivery, even though it was criticised at times. He had a lot of assists and a lot of kind of key chances created. And I just thought, at League One, like, he's got so many attributes that so many teams are going to want. Obviously, teams did want him and they wanted to pay for them as well, which is why he's not here now. But to replace him with Tendai, who is, honestly, I think he's a cut above Lass. I do. I don't think he's a like-for-like replacement. I think he's a slightly more rounded player than Lass Sorensen was. And I really didn't think we was going to be able to replace Lass in a way that we have done. And so, to answer the guy's question that you spoke to off from the Blackpool pod, do we miss them? No. We don't miss Lass Sorensen as a person. We all loved him around the club. But as a player, I thought we'd miss him massively, and we just haven't at all. And that's not to criticise Lass. That is just in pure praise of Tendai really coming in, and of course the recruitment team being able to identify the type of player that we wanted to bring in and attract him here. So it's all positive at the moment in terms of our discussion, isn't it? But the first half, as mentioned, maybe wasn't quite so positive. So shall we maybe have a touch on the first half?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, it was fine. I mean, at a push, it was fine. I mean, let's run through it, because the first few minutes, we made some forays into the final third, and I thought to myself, this actually looks like we might have, and it's going to set things up for a bit later on. I thought we've got a referee that was going to allow Joven to play his game and let things go and let things flow a little bit, and we'd have a bit more of a kind of an old school style, game of football where players are maybe getting physical but not fouling each other. There was a good moment in the first couple of minutes, I think it was, when Joven got down to the essentially near the byline and put a challenge in on one of the defenders, and it looked on first glance when you see it, you go, "Oh, was that a foul?" No, it wasn't. It was just a genuinely really good challenge. Took it back and managed to get the ball back into the area. And I thought to myself, "Oh, this looks like it's going to be quite promising." And then obviously that fell apart quite quickly,
just a little,
with some stuff that we will talk about in a little minute. But I mean, yeah, on the whole, there wasn't too much to shout about from our point of view. I think we had one shot on target.
One shot in total,
one
not
shot.
On target. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then the two moments that kind of stood out for Orient, we've got their quick free kick, which I think the ref lost the plot a little bit afterwards. I didn't have a problem with the free kick. It was obviously
it was a definite free kick. Yeah, I thought Puddy should have got a yellow for it, actually.
I think maybe if they hadn't taken it quickly, I think he potentially would have done.
Good point.
But yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because I think if you have a quick free, if you have a free kick and you have the opportunity to just put your hand on it and take it quickly and gain an advantage from it, I'm not against that.
Yeah, same. From a Leyton Orient's perspective, I thought it was smart. I thought, if the ref rings it back and says, "No, you've got to wait for me to blow the whistle. We've got to set the wall up, put the the dandruff on the floor, whatever it is that they put on the floor to mark the line. Do the booking if there's a booking to be done. The referee normally makes you stop. To be honest, the amount of times that people have tried to take a quick free kick and the ref goes, "No, hang on, I've got some things to do." I didn't mind. Obviously, against us, it was threatening, but as a football fan, as a neutral, I liked it, to be honest. And they fluffed their lines a little, didn't they? And it was definitely a goal kick. And then he gave a corner just because the Leyton Orient players decided to moan about it, because half of them didn't even realise the free kick had been taken, or no one really knew what was going on. I didn't know what was going on at the time. It was only on second and third viewing that you kind of try and work it out. Yeah. But it was strange. But I'm with you. I actually quite like it. If that's a rule that they allow to keep, allow you to do it, then I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The fact that the ref didn't really seem to know what was going on and then just kind of let things happen was interesting, shall we say? Because it wasn't.
Yeah, that was the bit that annoyed me.
To suggest it.
Yeah, that was the bit that annoyed me the most. It wasn't so much the free kick, because again, if you get a free kick and you're allowed to take it that quickly, fair enough. Might have had a slightly different view if they'd rifled it into the top corner, but on the whole, I don't mind that. I thought it was a corner, if I'm honest, and I thought the linesman had flagged for a corner initially, but obviously didn't, and there was chaos and confusion. But I thought when he tried to put the cross in, I thought it took the deflection and bounced out there. I don't know if there was somebody on the far post that kicked it out, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, the frustration there with the ref kind of only started to grow a little bit, I think. There was one moment which I've looked back through the highlights this morning. One moment that isn't on the highlights that I know me and you picked up on during the game was a moment where Freddie Draper had the ball in the centre circle and he played a ball out wide to Dom Jeffries, and the weight of the pass and the intent behind it was absolutely bang on. And I just thought to myself, if you want an example of something relatively negligible in a game that's going to show what we're trying to do, to me, that was a very good moment to point out, I think.
Yeah, there was a few flashes in the first half. It was interesting because Gaz thought it was crap, and it turns out Michael Scubola thought it was crap as well. So fair play, because I wasn't so negative at halftime. Actually, looking at the statistics, I realised maybe, and again, it's silly to look at just one stat, so as I do, to look at the range and think, well, actually, yeah, we weren't great in the first half at all. Much worse than when I was sat there. I realised that we weren't great, to be honest. There's a couple of opportunities where we had really good counter-attack opportunities, but almost like on the far side, at the right hand side of the pitch, there was a spare player kind of overlapping, and whoever was in possession didn't see it. It came back across the same kind of our side, and then the move kind of broke down. So there's 2 or 3 kind of option chances where you think, just if you open your body up there, then we're in. So it didn't result in box entries, didn't result in touches in the box, didn't result in shots. But if someone had just seen one pass and we were in. So there was little moments where we weren't far away. But I think Orient absolutely shaded it. They more than shaded the first half. So just to look at some of the statistics, and this is relevant actually to go through some of these because of the second half. So what Course mentioned shots, we had 1 not on target. Orient, despite their possession, 65% of possession they had, 35. We know that's kind of standard these days. Overall 90 minutes for us to have around 35-40% possession. I'm going to touch on that as well later. But they had more touches in the box than us, 10 to our 2. They came into our box 11 times. We only went into theirs 6 times. Our PPDA, so our ability to press, was higher than it had been, is hovering around the 12 mark. Theirs was down at 5.63. So they were kind of twice as intense as we were in terms of stopping us playing out. And for all them being genuinely better than us, they didn't have a shot in target. And the only time that they got close was when they hit the bar from 40 yards out.
Yeah,
I actually felt quite comfortable at halftime, even though we hadn't been brilliant. I felt quite comfortable knowing, as we mentioned before, knowing that we had the options on the bench to bring on them. We know that they've all shown that they can impact the game. I was confident that we would improve in the second half. I didn't think it was that bad. Looking back, it was poor actually compared to our regular standards. But the second half certainly wasn't. But I imagine you wanted to mention something else about the first half. Yeah.
So just before we go on to the second half, I think the 2 moments that made me a little bit worried. Obviously, you mentioned there the shot from Orient, which hit the bar. Who was it? It was
Tom James. Great strike, by the way.
Tom James, yeah. Really, really good strike. I think it caught Wickens out a little bit because you watch him and he kind of does this. And it hits the bar. I think his initial thought is, that's going well over. I'm just going to leave it.
But it kind of dips. Those sort of shots are so hard to judge because they can, even if you're like, I'm obviously not, but when you're 6'6", like George Wickens is, they can still dip over you because when they're that far out, you're never stood directly on your line. You're going to be a couple of yards off your line in case there's like a clip ball and you're in a position to come and claim it. But it just hit with such dip. So then the kind of the flight of the ball to go to kind of it goes high and then drops really quickly. The amount of time, obviously myself is not the tallest goalkeeper in the world. The amount of times that happens and it just dips over you and it goes in and it's very annoying and embarrassing. But it happens. It was that I get your point, but as a keeper, you're kind of powerless sometimes with those sort of shots. Yeah. And I don't think he thought it's gone over. I think he thought it's either gone in or I'm not. Or it's gone over. I'm not getting there. It's kind of what he knows he's not getting there.
Yeah.
And but luckily, he hit the bar and everything was okay.
Yeah, and then there was only one other moment. I mean, did you say they had 2 shots?
They had 9 shots in the first
9
half.
shots, sorry.
Yeah.
So like the other one that made me worry. Yeah, the one that made me worry a little bit was the effort from Donnelly, the lad they've got on loan, I think from Liverpool. He had, I think he turned and shot, and it just kissed the outside of the side netting. And for a split second, I thought that's a hell of a goal. Oh no, it's gone. It's gone wide.
Yeah, I again only realised how close that was upon second viewing because they got a corner. I don't think I wasn't fully paying 100% attention.
You were trying to get your phone working, weren't you, Chris?
Maybe so annoying. It didn't work at all yesterday. But they got a corner for it, didn't they? So I kind of saw the side netting kind of bulge, if you like. It didn't really bulge; it just brushed past it. Knew it had gone wide. Luckily, sometimes the angle deceives you, didn't it? But sometimes and not just luckily. I thought, that's gone wide. That's okay. And then they got a corner for it. I thought, it must have got kind of deflected wide. Looking at it back, it shouldn't have been a corner. I don't think it didn't deflect off anybody, and it was very, very, very close. Should have maybe been a little bit more concerned than I was at the time. So I kind of forgot about that one at half time. Really, it was the one off the bar is the one that sticks in your mind, of course, because it cannoned off the bar. But Orient absolutely had the fair share of the first half. Did not deserve to be ahead. XG of just 0.45. So the quality of their chances was, the 2 shots they had that were good, if you like, were outside the box and quite a long way outside the box for one of them. Everything else we kind of blocked. So defensively we were fine, but it was going forward we were kind of off it. And Michael in his post-match interview said as much. Really, I quite liked when Michael Hurton asked him what did you say at half
Did
time?
you rattle the teacups?
That's between me and the players. What that means is they got a bollocking, but
Yes.
he doesn't want to say who got a bollocking and why, which is fair. Keep it in house. But he wouldn't say that if he didn't give him a bollocking, would he? But I think from the point of kicking off from half time up until the point that went 2-0 up, we were outstanding. Outstanding is maybe pushing it a little bit, but significantly improved from the first half, and most importantly, significantly better than Leyton Orient. Just one small thing before I touch on these is I think there was one shining light in the first half, which was Jovan Makama. He's been a player that's been growing and growing and growing all season. Just hasn't quite had the goal to cap really good performances off. Obviously, he got one yesterday, which we'll touch on. Could have maybe had two. But I thought we were a little bit disjointed in the first half. But Jovan was threatening stuff. He was the only player really that looked particularly threatening. When he got on the ball, I felt like something might happen. Didn't really feel like that with anybody else at any point in the first half. He made things happen himself, really. He got the ball under control, held up well. But then second half, everyone kind of went up to his level. So
yeah,
we're going to touch on both the goals, I imagine. But can I just touch on the stats quickly?
Yeah, go on.
So from the second half kicking off up until the point that Freddie put us 2-0 up. Shots-wise, we had 5. They 2 on target. After both the shots on target went in. Leyton Orient didn't have a single shot. Our pressing improved. Well, it improved twice. It was twice as good as it was. So our PPDA went down to 6. It was at 12 in the first half. Theirs went up to 9, and it was 5.6 in the first half. So what that meant is they pressed better than us in the first half. We just massively improved our intensity in the second half. We entered the box 12 times, had 6 touches in the box in that kind of 32 minute period. Orient only came into our box twice, and they were both from crosses. We had 4 counter-attacks, 3 resulting in shots. Orient didn't have a single counter-attack, and we put more accurate passes into the final third than Orient did as well. And this is the interesting one for me. Something that's been mentioned a little bit in passing. No one's criticised it yet in too much because we've been getting the results. But if a bad result comes off the back of this, our possession stats are going to take some criticism, I think, from certain circles. You know, we criticised Mark Kennedy for having only 30-ish% possession. Now, of course, we didn't have the goals or the attacking output to kind of back it up. We do now. We allow teams to have balls in certain part of the pitch. We allow teams to have the ball in certain phases of play and certainly at certain times in the game. But from that moment, from the second half kicking off until Freddie scoring, our possession was 60% and Orient was 40%. So even though the overall possession would look pretty standard to what it has for the rest of the season, which is around high 30s, low 40s for us, 60-ish for the opposition, similar in this game again, where it really counted from the point of from it being drawing for it to then being us ahead, which has happened quite a few times this season. In those moments, our statistics have been really good. And I'm not going to bore anyone with any more stats right now. I did do some digging earlier, which is quite interesting. And I didn't realize you could do this on Y Scout. You can get all of the data, but you can break it down to what's the data look like when it's a draw, when the match is in the kind of drawing state. What does the data look like when we are winning, and what does the data look like when we are losing? So I'm going to touch on that at the end today because I think there's something really interesting off the back of that. But I'll be quiet for a moment or two now.
Well, I was going to say we're nearly coming up to the point where we're probably going to have a break. So we're not going to. We may as well start the second half after we've had a little break. But one thing I wanted to just pick up on the first half performance, and it was something that I've noticed during the game, and then I think on the way home, I think Mark Hone mentioned it on the radio as well, and I thought it lines up with kind of what we were seeing. Orient pushed 2 of their lads from midfield up quite high when we had the ball. So it essentially nullified the back 3. They matched them up and it gave us no time. And that lines up with what you said about the pressing action, the PPDA stats. Because if they're suddenly pushing a lot of midfielders up to block off the lines from our defenders, it forces us to go a bit longer than we would like to normally do. And I think, it was Claire and Donnelly were kind of
they were
backing up. They're backing up Kelman quite well. And I think I don't know if maybe Skibala was expecting that. I think that might have been. I mean, we'll come on to his interview later on, but he did mention that, the lads maybe looked a little bit jaded, they looked a little bit tired from the week that they'd had, and then combined with what looked essentially like a team that came in with a game plan to stop us playing out from the back the way that we want to. Thought it was a bit of an interesting observation there. So maybe.
I agree. I think they were good at. I think you've got to credit the opposition sometimes, and they were good at it. But what it also means, because we don't play out that often. We play out when we can, but we don't. We play kind of risk averse football in our own third. Tend to we play out when we can, but we don't overcomplicate things. But also when they place those players so high, what that allowed you to do is play over the press. So that isn't necessarily just a aimless long ball. It may have seemed a little bit like that in the first half at times, but that isn't the aim. Whenever we play a long ball, it's in a particular area of the pitch for a certain reason. And we might not necessarily play for first contacts, though I think with the two that we played up top, maybe did indicate that we were playing for first contacts as well yesterday. But we played for knockdowns. And if they put one or both of their holding midfielders higher up the pitch to stop us playing out, you then play over the press. There's then space to play in this for the second balls. The problem in the first half is we didn't get on those second balls when we were able to, that, and that's what we've been good at this season. Is it's not necessarily winning that first contact. It's been pouncing on things high up the pitch, and then we've got possession in their third. That's what we've been good at. So that's the way to play through it. But or play over it if you like, play around it. But in the first half, they pressed high, but also they were picking up the seconds pretty well. It was only really Jovan that it stuck to, and then he just corrected something from himself. But it's an absolutely correct observation, and I think two things happened in the start of the second half, which we're going to have a break, so we'll touch on. But we had more intensity in winning the knockdowns, and because of that meant that they couldn't press as high because then they needed the protection in front of the back four to be able to combat that, and then that gave us more space to play. So it's a little bit of cat and mouse at that time. But shall we have a little break before we go and dissect the second half in more depth?
Well, we've actually got a question that's come in live as we're talking, and I do have it. I do have it in my notes. I said I want to wax lyrical about Tendai Doriqua for a couple of minutes and have a discussion. So Steve asks in the chat, he says, "Do you guys believe Doriqua is earning an extension of his 1-year deal?" Now, I think he's the kind of player that it obviously surprised us when we signed him. The joke about, he's 32, have we just got the 2 and the 3 mixed up and all the rest of it from when we signed him. I personally think that this might be the best signing that we made over the summer. It's
probably been the most impactful so far, certainly.
Yeah. I'm so impressed with everything that he's managed to do so far. Like, I can't remember which game it was, but it was when we were away, and I think he lost the ball up quite high in the pitch, and then the ball came down the opposition right wing, so it's obviously on our left-hand side, and then he sprinted back and made the tackle on the left-hand side of the pitch. Obviously not his area, but he's taken some sort of responsibility for it. He's like, I've made the mistake there, I'll go and get it. But on the whole, I just think he's been absolutely superb for us. He has the pace of a player that's at least 5 years younger than him. I think his physical fitness is outstanding as well, and he just looks every inch. And I'm going to use Pete, Gaz's dad's, terminology here. He looks a footballer. He genuinely does just look like every inch a footballer, and he's really, really impressive. I just can't. Yeah, I'm just so impressed that we managed to sign him. Yes, it is only on a 1-year deal, but as Steve asked, do we think he's earned an extension of that?
Well, he's got a 1+1, so will we trigger that extension is probably the question that Steve's asking. I agree in that he's had an incredibly good start to the season. He's been all the benefits of having an experienced player with the physicality of a young player. Physically, he's clearly still in tip-top shape and he hasn't lost a yard of pace, but mentally is where I've been most impressed with him. He's still got the athleticism to be able to get around the pitch to allow his mental attributes to kind of be demonstrated, which is often what you don't see. I know I wish I could have the physicality now that I had when I was younger, yet understand the game like I understand now. I'd have been a very, very different and hopefully a bit of a better footballer than I was. It's brilliant that he's still got the physicality just as much as he did 5, 6, 7 years ago. But he is so intelligent on the ball, off the ball. his decision making is what's really impressed me the most. I haven't seen him make a bad decision, I don't think, at any point in the season. And if he has made a mistake, even if it wasn't necessarily a bad decision, but poor execution off like a bad pass or something, he's always in the right place to sweep up again. He is utterly superb. But to answer Steve's question directly, do I believe he's earning an extension to his 1-year deal? We've only played 9 games. So
it's very true. I mean, Andy does ask a good question as well. He says, do you think he could remain after he stops football and remain as a coach?
Well,
if he wants to, I don't see why.
It's always an interesting question. If that's part of his own particular personal career development, then I imagine it's something that we would 100% support. However, coaching is a very, very different skill set to playing. And just because you're a good player doesn't necessarily mean you're a good coach. Just because you're a crap player doesn't mean you're going to be a crap coach as well. Style-wise, are very different. Don't know if that's something that Tendai wants to do. And I don't always necessarily think that players join for the sake they're going to join as a coach. There was a lot of talk about when Reedy retired. Oh, should we get him back in as a coach? We have no idea how good Matt Reedy is as a coach. You've got to be incredibly talented with a very, very different skill set to be a coach at this level. So I think let's be tentative on that. Let's enjoy him as a player first. Hopefully for another season. But like I said, we've got another 7 league matches to go yet, plus cup games. Anything can happen in that time. I love how he started, and if he continues as he is now, of course he'll have that extension and fully deserved. But it is early days yet, so let's just err on the side of caution, I think.
100%. Right. Well, that's going to do us for the first part of the show. We're going to go for a little break. If you're listening, if you're on YouTube, then we will say hello, and then we'll come back in a minute after a message from whoever's sponsoring us this week. Cut point there.
This bloody thing keeps falling out. Every podcast I have to keep sticking it back in me. Right. Sorry, everybody.
Dear. So, yeah, quick hello to the folks that are in. We've got Andy's in, Harry's in, obviously Steve's in as well. So, yeah, hello to everybody.
26 other people, it would appear as well. Hello, everybody.
29 at the moment. So, all good. Right. So, we'll come back in and talk about the second half. So. And there we go. Thank you to whoever has dropped us a sponsorship this week. So, yeah, let's get on to the second half. And we wouldn't want to miss anything, unlike, unfortunately, I managed to do, because I'd gone down for a bottle of water at half time, and I got chatting to a good friend of the pod, Andy Helson. Had a good old chat with him, and I saw the teams coming out on the telly. So I thought, right, I'm going to go up, and literally got to the top of the stairs as I heard the goal go in. So I had to watch that one back on the highlights, which was a bit annoying. But no, really, really good move. Really impressive goal. I think, where are we? We'd sort of said if he gets one, he's going to probably get a hatful in our group chat. Sadly, didn't quite happen like that. But I mean, in terms of the goal, the throw comes in, it's recycled well, and then the ball comes in from who else but Tendai Darikwa onto the head of Hamer, knocks it back, and then Joven finishes it with a header that's not an easy one to put in. So yeah, just a really well worked, and I think that, to be fair, like both of the goals were really well worked team goals yesterday. We could have had an exceptional individual goal as well, but we'll come on to that in a sec. Indeed. Yeah, really good goal. Great start to the second half. We came out just with so much more intensity, didn't we? And immediately put Leyton Orient under pressure. I like that we kind of kept the pressure on them as well, because they cleared the ball. We kind of, Hamer tried to redeliver it, knocked out again, worked to Darikwa. Lovely run, by the way. I want to commend Tom Hamer, who's going to go a little bit under the radar yesterday because there are other players that kind of have real standout moments. But I thought Hamer didn't put a foot wrong defensively for the whole game. I think he was really aggressive in the challenge, and his intelligent run, stay on side as well. Yeah, great floated ball from Darikwa, the perfect pass so that Hamer could get on the end of it. Great leap back across the goal, and then to an unmarked Joven, who I think would have been probably surprised that he was unmarked, but he had a lot to do, as you mentioned. It wasn't just a little nod in. He had to generate all the power himself, and it was like a stooping header, wasn't it? And it was great. But what a brilliant moment, because the guys deserved a goal from his performances over the last few games. Yeah, definitely. I was over the moon. Like, obviously because we were winning, but I was
just over the moon for him, specifically because he's deserved it. He really has deserved it. And I do feel that he has got the potential to go and score, a good few goals now. I'm not saying he's going to turn into a 20-goal-a-season striker. I'm also thinking there's no reason why he couldn't turn into that eventually in a few years' time. But, in terms of this season, he can certainly have a big role to play in terms of being a good team player, bringing other players into the game. But I reckon he can get double figures. I do. I think he can get 10. I really do. And hopefully this is one of many now in terms of a little flurry. But he absolutely deserved it for his all-round play over this game, but also in his previous matches as well. And it was just a really, really positive moment. And then he had another one, didn't he?
Yeah. So I think the slightly sarcastic side of me wants to say the only way he'll get 10 goals is if we somehow play Leyton Orient 10 times this season, because his last league goal came against them as well. But yeah, I mean, the next moment, which really forced us to sit up and go, bloody hell. He picks the ball up in his own half. He then sprints essentially in a straight line right at Simpson, who is on a yellow card, so he can't touch him, and just goes straight past him. And you think, oh, this is it. All he's got to do is lift it over the keeper and we've won. Lifted it over the keeper, but unfortunately just dragged it ever so slightly wide. And when you listen back to it on the highlights as well, you hear the whole ground go, yeah.
I love that sound. It's normally isn't away from when the home fans start and then they miss. It's always quite satisfying. But you can't criticise Jovan for this at all.
No,
he made it all himself. Conor McGrandles laid it off to him, and then he ran 3/4 of the length of the pitch, past 3 defenders, outpaced all of them. And it's difficult to run with the ball the same speed that you run without it, by the way. So it showed incredible pace. Did everything right. Even took the right decision in terms of the type of finish to lift it over the keeper off that side of the goalkeeper as well, because his positioning was opening up that side of the pitch.
Because he got a little bit of criticism against Cambridge for that, didn't he?
I kind of pointed it out in the chance in the first half. He tried to kind of blast it, keeper's height. Actually, just a little pass around the goalkeeper to the bottom right corner would have been sufficient. But he made the right decision with the finish here. He just put it slightly wide, but it just ran 3/4 length of the pitch. And I can't criticise a player that's made a chance out of thin air for themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It just showed just highlighted how threatening he is. I think because we've seen his development. So we've seen him look a bit gangly. We've seen him grow into men's football. We've seen him be outnumbered and outmuscled, and it didn't help when he was playing up front on his own in a team that didn't attack last season, and he was kind of thrown into the deep end. But we've seen his development. But I think part of it in our minds, we see some part of our fan base. You see that first opinion you had of him when you first saw him play, and the rawness that he had in his game, and the deficiencies he had. He was only 18-year-old lad, going to have deficiencies in his game, and that kind of lingers. Whereas when you're an opposition fan or opposition player, you just see him as he is now, as we should, as fans, what he is now. And he's terrifying. He's actually terrifying to play against. He must be, guy's 6'3", 6'4". He's strong. He's good with back to goal. His layoff and kind of link up play is really good. But he's bloody quick. If you let him roll you can't catch him. And he's good on the ball. Like technical ability is pretty good as well. He's good. His dribbling, particularly, is strong. Just a really, really good young player and a really threatening player. And what a moment it would have been for him to score his second. Deserved it, but not to be. But he's going to be delighted with his goal. His goal was fully justified. And then, of course, just a few minutes later, after a couple of substitutions were made.
I was going to say, we've got another one, haven't we? We've got another young prospect who's full of confidence at the minute. But before we come on to the finish, I think we need to talk about the build-up for that second goal.
Oh, yes.
Because it stems from a press. We win the ball back. Conor McGrandles wins the ball back. Neat little triangle, I think, with... I know it was with the Rahan. I can't remember who the third one was. It might have even been Ring himself, actually. Neat little triangle. And then there's a little drag back. And I know Gaz absolutely loved this because he specifically messaged us in the group chat. And he said, just a little drag from Conor McGrandles takes 3 players out of the game.
Yeah, well, I think it's composure. Because with this, again, been a little bit of criticism in terms of playing too long, too early. But it's making the right decisions at the right time. And to have the composure. And there was 4 Leyton Orient players around him at that point, by the way. Conor McGrandles is really kind of tactically aware. And But because there were 4 players around him, he thinks, well, I know there's going to be space higher up the pitch now. So, yeah, just really good composure. Ethan and Connor there. And also for Jovan's one-on-one chance that we just talked about, it was Connor that won the ball back and laid it off to Jovan as well. But yeah, really, really good play. Really composed, good weight at the pass. And then it was all about Eric Ring, really, wasn't it? Really, really clever, by the way, because he cut inside with his first touch and ran kind of towards the centre circle. And I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but just a little kind of shimmy with his body. He just half opens up his body as if he's going to cut inside again, and then takes another touch to the left. And it's 2 Leyton Orient players. He's then past them, and then one more touch. Perfect weighted pass to Freddie, and it perfect finish. By the way, there's not another part of the goal that he could shoot into there that would have ended up in a goal. That was the only part of the goal that he could have aimed for it to have been a good chance of a goal, and he hit it in the perfect spot. Brilliant. I think. And rightly so, Jovan's going to get a lot of credit for his performance yesterday. I think Freddie, that's probably the best performance I've seen by Freddie Draper at home in a Lincoln City shirt. Yeah. I think first half, he didn't have a lot of the ball in kind of clean possession, but he battled really well. He rolled his centre-back a few times. He brought his teammates into play. I think he did everything that a target man should do in the first half and in his the time he was on the pitch in the second half, and got a goal as well, which capped up a good performance. I think they complemented each other really well. I didn't think they would, to be honest. I was excited to see 2 academy products starting up front together, but I maybe struggled to see how the dynamic between them would work. But they really did suit each other there.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I mentioned in my notes, because I thought, well, Freddie's confidence at the minute is absolutely sky high, and you can see that because just before his goal, he attempted an overhead kick from 18 yards out.
He did. Yes.
I mean, yes, it went about 3 yards wide, but for a young lad to have that level of confidence in his own ability to even attempt that, it just shows that he's absolutely flying. And for me, when that ball comes across from Ring, like you say, absolute perfect weight on it, and it just finishes up just where Freddie needs to be. And as I'm watching him, I'm sat there thinking, I can see what's going through his head here. He thinks, shall I take a touch and go past the defender? Shall I do this? And he just goes, sod it, I'll just hit it. And he did. And it was, like you say, absolutely perfect. Nestled in the bottom corner. Fantastic finish. And it was another one of those sort of breakaway goals that we've had so much this season. And I think we'll touch on it when we talk about Welland's comments later on, but I think it was a game of counter-attacks yesterday.
For us, it certainly was. We had 6 counter-attacks yesterday. 4 of them resulted in a shot, which is that's a high number of counter-attacks to result in shots in any game of football. Or only had 1, which they scored off actually. But I mean, it was good in that regard.
Yeah,
we're good at that though. We don't play specifically for counter-attacks, but we know we are good in transition.
Yeah.
And yesterday certainly proved that in that first 2/3 of the second half, certainly.
Yeah. The only slight downside was that it looks like Freddie may have pulled something. I think he did it during a celebration.
I didn't notice that myself, but maybe so.
Yeah, because I think after his celebration, he sort of stood hunched over for a few seconds. Whether it was just to waste a few more seconds on the clock, I don't know. But yeah, I'm hoping nothing too crazy there. Do we think Eric Ring's staking a claim for a start?
Yeah, I do. I think it depends on who we play against. I'd be surprised to see him start against Birmingham because we need maybe some more defensive solidity. I think Jeffers has been a bit more solid defensively. Ring hasn't had to defend too much because he's come on in games and changed them with an attacking kind of mindset. Though we didn't do anything wrong defensively when we had to go to a deep 5 towards the last 15 minutes yesterday. I really like Eric Ring.
Yeah.
But Michael has mentioned it a few times. It's a squad game now. So even the players on the bench are going to have a massive impact on the pitch. You're not dropped if you don't start. You are just playing a different role. And I don't think that is that's not pandering. I think that is just a statement of fact. And we've seen it. The amount of impact our substitutes have had in so many games this season. And then Ring again sharing that yesterday. It's great. Yeah. Great moment for him though to kind of have a standout moment at home, which is really good. Now, he's
obviously had that from the Blackpool game as well.
Of course. That's what I'm saying. He's made a big impact. But I mean, that's his first real impact at home. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I would say to that, I mean, obviously, we tend to drop to a 4 at the back when we're out of possession.
We did until the last 15 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. When we're looking at going against Birmingham, do you think? And we'll obviously preview this. Well, you guys will preview this when we come to Birmingham. But like, do you not think that if we have Eric Ring in the starting 11, he's probably more suited to sitting on that position as a counter-attacking player, and
100%.
having Sean Rowan sitting back and making that back 4 a bit more solid, and we just compact it a little bit more?
Yeah, it's horses for courses, to be honest. So we've always been kind of 3-5-2 in possession. We have been 4-4-2 out possession actually more often than we haven't this season. But we have also been a back 5 or low 5 at certain phases in the game and against certain opponents. Short answer to your question is, if we decide to go for a 4, yes, that would suit Eric Ring and is a real counter-attacking threat. Question is how do we play against Birmingham? No, I haven't previewed their game. I haven't looked in depth into their tactics or anything to even give an insight into that. But if we end up playing a 4-4-2 out of possession more often than not, that left midfield, it's wing back, but it's midfield really. Because in terms of out of possession, gives him that extra protection behind him with Sean. So yes, to answer your question, yes, that would justify his start. If we play a low 5, then I think Jeffries probably gets the nod because he's looked pretty robust defensively so far this season. Yeah. I thought it was game over at 2-0, Ben.
Yep, but it absolutely wasn't, the same. No, I was going to say let's come on to it. Sometimes you've kind of just got to hold your hand up and say that's a really good goal. Skabala was a little bit frustrated with what he saw as some sloppy positional play, I should say. I think really the only thing that we can maybe criticise was Pordy not winning the ball out of the air. But in terms of a counter-attack, they did exactly what they needed to do. They broke quickly. They managed to get the ball out to, I've forgotten the lad's name now, but he managed to get it out to him. And it was a really smart finish. Surrounded by two defenders, just puts it in between them. And, beyond Wickens, I couldn't complain too much about the goal. I thought it was just a well-worked goal.
Yeah, a few things really. Obviously, a slight mistake from Pordy in regard to his positioning. Wasn't deep enough to be able to attack the ball. But the thing what goes to show is League One's got high quality footballers in it, and if you make a mistake, you get punished. You do get punished at this level for making errors, and we did. At the point that Aji picked up the ball, he had a lot to do still. As much as we would normally expect us to be able to clear that ball at first attempt, from the point that he picked it up, he still had a fair amount to do. And he did it really well. Did it really, really well. Great finish across the keeper. And then it was a challenge then, wasn't it? Because also at that point, it was just after the goal, I think, that Freddie went down injured again and had to be brought off. And because we didn't have 2 centre forwards on the bench, at that point, we then went to one up top with Bailey up top on his own. Yeah. And we just conceded territory. We said, right, we're going to set up shop to defend here. And it wasn't really the Alamo, but Orient did have a lot more territory, and they of course had 2 big opportunities, which
I mean, before we come to that,
heart in the mouth moments.
Yeah, before we come to that, it was really nice to see Ethan Hamilton back.
Yeah, of course.
Coming on, I thought this is just a really nice moment for him, obviously, to get back in. We knew it might be coming. By the sounds of it, we may well see Rico Hackett against Birmingham as well. So. Seems like a lot of stuff's coming back up to full strength. But I think Hamilton did a job to see the game out. Do we think Rob Street might feel a little bit hard done by for not even making the bench?
Yeah, probably. We've had 2 strikers on the bench in every game pretty much this season so far. Yeah. So maybe it's a bit harsh on him. Maybe there's a tactical reason for it. Maybe there's a knock we don't know about. He hasn't been seen too much in first team circles so far this season. So maybe when asked about injuries to certain players in the press conference, Michael wasn't asked directly about Rob, so he didn't answer about it. Maybe he's not injured. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But yes, I think he probably could if he hasn't got picked up an injury, because even out of possession, even when we've been protecting leads, we've tended to still keep 2 up top at times. And I actually think it did limit us a little bit by having a kind of a 5-4-1 shape out of possession. It was more defensive than we maybe have experienced before. We did actually keep them out on the whole, but there was 2 massive opportunities for Orient. There's, of course, an overhead kick, which Wickens turned around the post, which was really, actually, on second viewing, a save that I'd expect him to make, but he made it in the stadium.
At the time, though.
I was like, oh my God, that's a massive save for us. Oh, good. Panic over. We've probably won now. And then just a few seconds later, free header, not a free header, but just a well-won header at the back post. I think,
we've been on the receiving end of what we nearly were on the receiving end of what we'd managed to do on Tuesday night. And
then Conor McGrandles with a 2-point saving header off the line. Yeah, absolutely. And then the full-time whistle pretty much went immediately after that. Orient, on the balance of the 90 minutes, would have probably felt hard done by not to get a point. But I have got, so I'm really conscious we've spoken a lot about Orient here, but I've got one last thing to touch on, which is, I think, and I hope everyone else does, I think this is really, really interesting. So I found a new button on Y-Scout then.
Okay.
So when you look at statistics, or you look at any sort of metric you want to look at, you generally look at how it's gone over the whole game, over the whole season, and like I have earlier, you can split it into little kind of sections in the game. What you can do now is you can do it by game state. So you can look at, well, what did all the stats look like over the season when you're drawing? What do they all look like when you're winning? What do they all look like when you're losing? So I'm not going to go through everything, but there's a couple of things that I think are really important here. So I am going to focus on primarily XG here, just because it's one metric rather than 10 different ones, but most of them align with this kind of example. When we're drawing, actually, we're pretty even with our competitors in most metrics. We're actually pretty even. We know that when it gets to the box, we're good at defending ours, and we're good at taking things in the opposition. But in terms of the overall performance data, we're pretty even with our opposition. Now, when we are losing, so which hasn't happened often this season, but I think this is really interesting. When we're losing, we have significantly more possession than our opponents. We press significantly higher than our opponents. As you'd expect, we're trying to get back in the game. We have more touches in the box, significantly more, loads of box entries, loads of accurate final third passes, and generate 6 times more XG than our opponents do. So when we're losing, I think this isn't a surprise to anyone, I don't think. When we're losing, we know that we've got the ability to get back in the game. We really push the game. We go really aggressive. We create lots. Saw it against Blackpool, of course, on Tuesday is a prime example of that. What this suggests, though, is that, as you probably expect from most teams, you create more than your opposition do when you're losing because you're trying to get back in the game. Now, we create 6 times more than our opposition. But what you'd therefore expect is, well, when we're winning, then you'd maybe expect it to be the other way around, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
You'd expect the opposition to create a bit more because we're sitting a bit deeper. We create more XG than our opposition when we're winning.
Okay. That's a good chant, isn't it? We create more XG than our opposition when we're winning.
Only marginally more. But the point I'm making here is when we go a goal up, we don't sit off to defend that early. We actually try and get a second more often than not. But actually, we don't concede a huge amount in terms of our opposition really forcing errors from us. We saw it in the last 15 minutes against Leyton Orient, of course. But generally speaking, from a winning position, our performance metrics are really, really, really strong compared to our opposition's performance metrics against us when we're losing. So I think that's massive for me. And I'm not going to go and I've done loads of stats today. I've been quite good this season, I think, in not going overboard with statistics. But I stumbled across that earlier today, and that, it's a massive outlier in the league. That is, by the way. So that is good stuff. So basically, what that shows is, as Michael mentioned in his post-match press conference, because I imagine we're going to touch on press conferences now.
We are indeed. That's what we're moving on to now.
Was that he said that he felt like the game probably needed a second goal, so we wanted to keep going for it. And so he even referenced that that's the mentality in the team more often than not, is when we've scored, can we score again? And the stats over the whole season so far from winning positions suggest that that's what we aim for. Whether we actually get the second goal or not is a different matter, but we do clearly play for it. So that's interesting, and it's obviously a very good sign. So that's that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, well, let's look briefly then at the post matches, because We also do have something to look forward to slightly for Tuesday. But Skibala's post-match basically said in there that maybe the team were a bit jaded. They maybe lacked energy. Halftime team talk changed things. And he said that he needed to focus on things like the energy and desire before looking at the tactical stuff, which I think, you need to be in the right mindset before you even attempt to take on a big task. So getting them into that mindset probably seemed to jar them a little bit and get them in. Thought that Simpson could have been sent off before half time. I think maybe not sent off, but I think if he'd have carried on the pitch, he would have been in a serious risk for it, because he was giving Jovan all sorts of issues. I don't know, it was something that I did want to briefly talk about, but I don't understand how Jovan Makama can have a defender's arm pushed across his face and then essentially get wrestled to the floor on the edge of the box and a free kick not be given. And then 20 seconds later, he happens to breathe very lightly on their defender who goes over.
Yeah, it's baffling.
And gets a free kick against him.
Frustrating moment. Because the amount of times that you see free kicks given that were given against Jovan there is it's really regularly. It's not, most of the time it's not a foul. But even let one go in the first half, which you referenced earlier in the podcast. Yeah, she won the ball back cleanly, by the way, and that was a far stronger challenge.
Yeah, 100%.
But the amount of times you see those free kicks given, we think, it's not a bloody free kick. It's just because the defender's fallen over effectively, and he's in a bit of a dangerous position.
Yeah,
but the referee had literally like a reference point 10 seconds earlier.
Yeah,
the other way around.
Yeah.
So, like, when we all say you want consistency, and the referees come back and says no two fouls the same. So it's difficult to be consistent because everything is slightly different. But fair point, kind of. But they are almost
the one
identical.
on Jovan was worse.
Yeah, exactly.
The one on Jovan was worse.
So when we say we want consistency, that's what we mean, referees.
Yeah.
Is when there's literally the exact foul or worse foul that happens 10 seconds before.
Yeah.
Just know what you're doing and make the right decision. It's not rocket science, is it? Jesus Christ.
While we're on the subject of people that I think were maybe lucky or were on the verge of getting sent off, by the way, Ethan Arahan, I love that man. But there are points in his game where if the referee had seen something, he would be off. There was a moment towards the end of the game yesterday where I don't know how else to describe it, but I think he wanted a Leyton Orient shirt. Like, honestly, he pulled it so far, it was like a triangle coming off the guy. He was holding him on the edge of the box as the ball was being played around and looking to come in. And you just think it's just daft. Like, you're on a yellow card, you're on the edge of the box. If the ref sees that and he decides, oh, yeah, that one's a foul, you're off the pitch and we've got a penalty against us. I thought don't get me wrong, we all absolutely love Ethan and everybody knows that. But sometimes I just think the discipline isn't quite there.
I do get your point. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little, and maybe this was a little bit of a silly one. I agree, but I'm going to reference Michael's press conference against Blackpool and just our mentality towards how we play. Wants our players to be front-footed and aggressive and win the ball back. And now and then that's going to go over you're going to pick up bookings, it's going to go over the line. But you'd rather that than be passive.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So in this example, yes, you're absolutely right. Of course, you're 100% right. But I don't...
It's knowing how to manage the aggression.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
I think pulling a shirt back, pulling a shirt like that, obviously... I think he was a little bit lucky yesterday, but on the whole, I thought we maybe deserved it.
I think he managed up until that point. He managed the game really well because on the booking from early in the game, and he didn't really get involved in any dangerous situations where
the ref did go to him quite early. Actually, when he was, it was an off the ball thing, and I think the ref spoke to him quite early on in the game, which maybe put him in a frame of mind of, right, I'm not going to mouth off today. I'm not going to do that. But let's look at Welland's post-match. His first comment was basically he felt that they should have got something out of the game. Felt they dominated the first half without getting a shot or a final ball away. And I think the overriding feeling from him was that they lost the game rather than we won the game. which I can kind of see where he's coming from on that.
I mean, in that first 30 minutes of the second half, we were brilliant. They dropped off it, and you can, like, from a Leyton Orient perspective, you think, no, we were nowhere near as good now as we were in the first half. From a Lincoln City perspective, we just massively improved in that. So from his perspective, you think, because that means that it's controllable by you in coaching and on the training pitch in the next week or so. Honestly, I think we were just really good in that the start of the second half.
Yeah, but he then said bear in mind, on an official club interview, said that they were pissing away points. And then I don't think he quite realised what he'd said. But then a little bit later on, he said that we were talking about how Lincoln are a team that will give you possession. We can have all the possession in the world, but it's not useful if we don't do anything with it, and we weren't doing anything with it. He said, I mean, for Christ's sake, put me in a bib, put me in a king bib, and I'll go out there and get 90% possession against them. So I think there was a real level of frustration from Richie Wellens yesterday. But it was all.
I find that interesting because people are going to reference I imagine more and more opposition managers are going to reference our possession stats. But we want the opposition to have the ball in certain parts of the pitch so we can win it. But it sounds. I touched on this on Wednesday. It's weird. It's only really since I've thought about it in more depth early in the season. Because I was like, I'm a bit concerned about these possession stats, and then realised, no, not at all. And that's not just being kind of blindly optimistic. It's we see the opposition having possession in their third as an opportunity to win it back out the pitch, rather than, and then we've suddenly got possession in the third, rather than having to build ourselves up there ourselves. And I just think that's going to be right. So we actually see the opposition having possession in certain parts of the pitch as an offensive tactic for us. You don't see that in any statistics, but it's I think it's an interesting ploy. It means we've got to get the press right. But it's just funny, though, because he was saying that you can have all the possession in the world. It doesn't matter what you do with it. And he said, I could go on there and have 90% possession. Yeah, but what would you do with it, Mr. Wellens?
Exactly. I think that was his point. He's basically trying to say that he was really frustrated with the way that his team performed.
From his point of view, he's obviously irate, but in terms of his actual comments about the game, as we've actually said quite a lot this season from opposition managers, it's kind of right. Yeah. On the whole.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing he said was, I'm not going to criticize them. They're good at what they do. So, okay, cool. I think we're going to get that quite a lot this season. But right. We'll wrap this one up for yesterday's game. Steve said that the Football League paper has Hamer as the game's star man and in the team of the day for the division. Personally, I thought Derek was man of the match yesterday. I thought he was.
Yeah, me too. I thought he was great. I would have given it Jode if he played longer, I think.
Yeah.
Derek was brilliant. According to FOTMob, Colin McGrandles was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, I've seen that today as well. Very interesting one. So, but obviously we do have a game on Tuesday. It's in the EFL Trophy, and it's the EFL Cup, which is a very different competition. EFL Trophy against Grimsby. I think the biggest question, we're not going to do too much of a preview for it because we don't really know where we are in terms of who's going to play. So let's try and make a educated guess, shall we say, about who's going to start and who's going to play. I mean, for me, obviously, Scabala said at the end of the press conference that Jovan and Freddie have pulled something. They don't know how long it's going to be, so I would expect them to both be rested for Tuesday night, at least not starting, which suggests to me that we might see Rob Street and Bailey Cadamartri up top. I mean, it's unless Ben House's nose is better now. He's not.
There's no point risking it in this game, though, is there?
No. So yeah, Bailey and Street to start. Maybe Eric Ring to start as well. I don't know. How do you?
Yes, it's interesting.
How do you approach the game?
I don't know, and the reason I don't know is because I don't know how serious you were taking the competition. Because I think we've signed a squad, at least on paper, so we can attack on lots of different fronts. We can compete in different competitions. Obviously, we're out of the EFL Trophy already. EFL Cup, Jesus, so confusing. EFL Cup already from losing to Harrogate. We lost against Chesterfield in this competition. So as it stands in the league table, Chesterfield are top on 5 points. They've won one and drawn one, and then get a stupid extra point for winning a pointless penalty shootout. Man City have played one, drawn, so they've got a point. Grimsby haven't played yet on 0 points. We've obviously played one and lost one. I've also got 0 points. So What that almost means, though, is that Chesterfield are pretty much there. They're already through, near enough. So if we have genuine ambitions of getting through this competition, for whatever reason we see the benefit in it, genuine, realistic chance to get into Wembley, always worthwhile. Financially, always worthwhile, 10 grand for a win. And also, it's a really good method to get fringe players competitive minutes. I like this competition for that third reason more than any. But that's only going to be beneficial if we get through.
Yeah. And
we have more games to play in the competition. So we need to win this. If we don't win, we're out, to be honest. If we don't win, we're out. So I suppose we could draw and win the penalty shootout and go on 2 points. But realistically, we need to win this to have it in our hands, really. So for that side of it, I kind of think, well, we probably want to play a strong-ish team, particularly when we haven't got a game on Saturday. So first team players that might play some minutes in this game would then get a week's rest anyway. But also, we want to get players that haven't played much football opportunity to play. So it's really difficult to predict this because last time, I think Ethan started, didn't he? Paulie started.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult for me to work this out. What would I do? I would change as many people as you possibly could. Trust the players that you've got in your squad and hope to get something positive and expect Grimsby to do something similar. Don't know how seriously they're taking it. Then their league form needs some attention. So maybe this is an opportunity for them to get a positive result on the board with a strong team, or actually you don't know it from opposition. That's why I haven't really previewed it from an opposition point of view tactically or looking at stats, is because you don't know what team's going to play. If they make 6 changes, 7 changes, it's a different team. So the stats are irrelevant anyway, and they are for us as well. So to answer your question shortly, and I don't know who's going to play, Ben. I don't know. But who do I expect to play? I do expect to see Cadamartri and Street start. I expect to see Eric Ring start. I expect to see Rico and Hamilton to maybe get 45 each, whether that be in the first or second half. Probably JJ McKinnon to get a start as well. Saxon early, maybe. Not sure. Depends on whether Duffy is injured or not still. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know, though. It's too difficult.
Do we know?
It's really difficult.
Do you know what the situation with G-Cock is at the minute? Is he recovered? Or is
Not sure. So it was concussion
out?
protocol, wasn't it? So it'll be Partington or him playing in goal, I imagine. I expect to see Eric Ring at right wing back probably instead of Tendai. So I do expect to see a lot of changes. I personally would make a lot of changes, but we do want to win the game. And is that a little naive then? If you want to go in and win, because we've taken, we have made a lot of changes in the other 2 cup matches so far this season, and we've lost them both. So do you think we're going to learn from that potential mistake, if you see it as a mistake, or do we not care too much about the result? One thing it does ride on this a little, by the way. Michael Skibala hasn't won a cup game yet for Lincoln City, so there might be an opportunity to get that little duck off his back as well. So we'll see. Okay. We'll see. Honestly, don't care. As long as the fringe players get some minutes and it's a positive performance, and we see some flashes that give them an opportunity to get in the first team, I'm happy. I would like us to win. I would like us to progress because of all of the benefits. But the main benefit for me in this competition is that it gives those fringe players opportunity to play. Lewis Monson, of course, I imagine will get 90 minutes. Good for him. Good to see him back on a bench, by the way, on Saturday. Can we just touch on that quickly? I'm pretty sure we're massive overly on time. Loads of people have been asking, what's Monson done wrong? He's not been on the bench. Has he injured again? And to my knowledge, no, he hasn't been injured, but you can only pick 7 substitutes. And we've got a squad of 25-ish. So people are going to miss out at times. So Tom Hemmick has been the defender on the bench most often because Jacko's been playing. Tom can play centre-back or wing-back or holding midfield, who's quite versatile and hasn't got the question marks over his fitness that Lewis has. Nothing against Lewis Monsma, but just in terms of pecking order in the squad, Tom Hamer is above him at the moment. But it was good to have Lewis back on the bench on Saturday, but I expect Lewis to play on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a fair assumption. So I think that's probably going to do us for an episode. I don't think we have anything more that we need to talk about. Obviously, we do have a bit of a break in terms of games until the 19th when we face Birmingham at home, which can only do us a bit of good, I think. People often say if you're on a bit of a roll, the momentum can stop all the rest of it. But personally, I think given we've had Fred and Joven go off yesterday, I think maybe let them recover, let everyone
Well, I think there's a few things on that, isn't there? Because Fred and Jovan and Tendai that all look like pick up maybe little knocks yesterday. Yep. It gives them an opportunity to get fit again because they don't look serious, hopefully, because they all seem like they were moving around okay at the end of the game, celebrating. So hopefully it's nothing too serious, but it just takes the pressure off them from a fitness perspective. Allows Ben House to finish his protocols for his concussion.
Yep.
It gives Ethan Hamilton and Rico Hackett another week and a bit, or 2 weeks, sorry, to get back on the grass and in with the first team again and get up to speed. We're going to have a really strong.
Is Ben House under concussion protocol?
Yeah, that's why he missed out yesterday.
Was it? I thought it was because he's got his.
So it was asked in the presser by Michael. We didn't reference this on the podcast. Obviously, it came out on Thursday, and we recorded on Wednesday. But he said his nose was actually repairing all right, but there was concussion.
Okay.
So they just had to keep an eye on him. So he's going to miss this game, but he should be all right
fair enough.
For the next ones.
Okay, no, I missed that. Apologies. So yeah, no, I think a good week or so off will be good for everybody. Don't think there's anything additional. So with that, we'll call that a podcast. That was episode 322. I'm sure somebody will be around on Thursday or Wednesday even.
There we go. Yes, that's a worst point. We're going to try and record on Wednesdays from now on, ladies and gents, rather than Thursdays, to release on a Thursday morning audio. Or of course, if you want to watch live, it'll be a Wednesday evening. We don't think we can guarantee it every week, but we're hoping to do that just to kind of have more of an even spread in terms of listening time between matches and over the course of the week. So that is the plan. So we'll hopefully get something out on Wednesday evening, and then we'll most likely do something on Sunday as well. But of course, without a game, we might ask for some questions off you guys. We'll maybe ask for some ideas from the patrons or the sort of things you might like us to cover as a special. Charlie and I will be recording our monthly review, so it'll actually be just over a month. But we'll be recording that next weekend as well for a YouTube special. So just keep an eye out for that.
Good stuff. Right. Well, until then, I think there's only one thing left to say, isn't there, Chris? Up the imps.
Up the imps.
City are the team, the readiest is their name. Sinsel bankers their home ground, and football is their game. So come and cheer them on, you lads, support them all the way. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white, the imps are here to stay. Oh,